Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the training on crises, MSSG-led preparedness, reporting for marketing authorization holders. I'm Pedro Freire, monitoring value stream owner. I think we have to another one. And another one. Before we start, just a few housekeeping notes. Please note that this session is being recorded and will be made available through the EMA's corporate website on the event page and also EMA YouTube channel. And throughout this training, you will be able to ask questions or give your input via Slido and also answering quizzes to test your knowledge and have a better interaction with our participants in the meeting room. The interaction with Slido is voluntary and you may opt to remain anonymous. If you use Slido, you consent to the processing of your personal data as explained in our data privacy statement. We have, I would say, a beautiful training today with a lot of content. With me, I have Monica Dias. She's the head of supply and availability of medicines and medical devices. Sofia Zastavnik, ESMP product owner. Pietro Patti, access management specialist. Pedro Oliveira, monitoring value stream manager. Christoph P. is our senior architect, and they will cover the interoperability aspects of the ESMP. And finally, Stephanie Maschler, she's a medicines and medical devices shortage officer, and she will take us through the Q&A session today. So for this meeting today, or for this training, we have three main objectives. The first objective is to deepen your knowledge, your ESMP knowledge, and how to report data on crisis and MSSG-led preparedness, and consequently be compliant with regulation 2022-123. The second aspect is to learn how to access the ESMP. Pietro will give you some insights and he will reinforce what has changed since our last webinar in June last year. And finally, we'll have also the explanation how ESMP can be used either through a user interface or through a machine-to-machine. And the last objective is about collect your feedback, clarify answers, and make sure that you are ready to use the ESMP. Please, you are also invited to visit our ESMP webpage, which also contains relevant information that you may want to access. We will have, in principle, a 10 minutes coffee break, and this might be around 11:15 this morning, but we will, of course, inform you in due time, and also depends on how Sophia will be delivering the content of this training session. So with no further delay, I will give the floor to Monica. Please If you want to send questions via Slido, you can start now, and you have the code, the QR code here, where you can access and to the Slido and kindly send your questions. Monica, please.
Thank you very much, Pedro, and good morning, everyone. So I will now take you through the management of shortages in the UEA so that it's perhaps clearer why we have developed the ESMP, and in particular for the purpose of crisis and preparedness activities. So if we move to the next slide, just to remind everyone that improving availability of medicines in the UEA has been a key priority for the European Medicines Regulatory Network for a long time. And as early as 2016, in fact, the network established a task force to find measures, policy, and guidance for the purpose of addressing the problem of availability of medicines. Now, we have a number of structures and processes in place, and we have also Regulation 22.123 that now has equipped EMA with the necessary tools and processes for the enhanced coordination, monitoring, and prevention measures, and also to have a key coordinating role during crisis preparedness. But indeed, the topic of supply and availability of medicines continues to be a priority. And it was one of the themes of the MAHs strategy to 2025, so the European Medicines Agency's network strategy to 25, but actually continues to in our strategy to 2028. And in fact, the network will continue towards strengthening the availability of medicines to protect public and animal health, as well as reinforcing the oversight and protection of supply chains, and also increasing inspector capacity. Now, are we there yet? Are we going to have additional measures? Yes, indeed, the ongoing reform of the pharmaceutical legislation and in 2023, the European Commission communication on addressing medicine shortages in the UEA further reinforced and extended EMA's role when it comes to the management of shortages. And this will consequently lead to the expansion of the SMP. But this is something that we will not, of course, address today, but wanted to give you already a heads up. Next slide, please. Now, another element that sometimes creates confusion, and I think it's important that on the onset of today's training, we clarify what are the different lists of critical medicines. So we have, let's say, three different types of activities. We have activities under normal circumstances. So if you look here on the left-hand side and the thermometer, so normal circumstances, we have preparedness activities or actions, and we have a crisis. And we have different lists for these different types of situations. So if we start from the bottom, in normal circumstances, we have what is the so-called Union List of Critical Medicines. And that was initially published version 1 in December of 2023. And we've just updated that list now in December of 2024. And you have the links there to the list. What is the aim of the Union List of Critical Medicines? So here in this list consists of medicines that are most important for public health systems, and security of supply is essential for those medicines. So they need to be available at all times. So we need to identify vulnerabilities in the supply chain of critical medicines so that we address those vulnerabilities and ensure supply for patients at all times. Now, this is what I'm going to address when it comes to the Union List for the purpose of today's training. We don't have to address further the Union List of critical medicines, but we will address preparedness and crisis. So let's look at preparedness. So here we will, the MSSG will define a list of products that need to be need to be, let's say, closely monitored for the supply and demand. But this is ahead of a crisis. So here we're talking about preparedness activities, and I will actually give you a concrete example, which is the exercise we did on a subset of antibiotics used for respiratory infections, and the exercise was done in preparation for winter of 23-24. So I will give you more detail with a concrete example of what is a preparedness led activity. Now, crisis. So crisis we also have experience when it comes to of those lists specific for a particular public health emergency or a major event. So we have two types of crisis. We can either have a public health emergency, or we can have a major event, or we can even have both at the same time. Now, for each of these public health emergencies, we will the MSSG will adopt a crisis-specific list. So that will be a list of medicines that are important for that particular public health emergency or major event. Do we have examples? We do. So we have adopted a list of critical medicines for the COVID-19 pandemic, and also for mpox. So we have experience there, and again, those medicines need to be closely monitored during a crisis, and we need to monitor supply and demand, and also shortages for medicines that are included in those lists. So now, if we move to the next slide, how does those lists and those different types of situations, so normal circumstances, MSSG-led preparedness actions and crisis, how does that reflect when it comes to reporting? So routine reporting is the normal circumstances, as I mentioned already, and here we're talking about potential and actual shortages for centrally authorized products. So this is what is already ongoing. We went live in November of last year, and MAHs of centrally authorized products are already notifying shortages, potential actual shortages of their products through the ESMP. Now, when it comes to crisis and MSSG preparedness, so there we, as I mentioned, we are addressing a particular crisis or a preparedness activity. It is the MSSG that announces this preparedness action. The European Commission will recognize a public health emergency or a major event, so that is the trigger for the crisis, which differs from the MSSG-led preparedness activities. And I've already gone through the products that will be included in those lists of crisis-specific or MSSG-led preparedness activities-specific products. And I think it's important to mention that when we're talking about routine monitoring, routine shortage reporting, we're talking about centrally authorized products only. But when we refer to MSSG-led preparedness activities and crisis, here we can have a list of products that will include both CAPs and NAPs. So if we move to the next slide, just to recap very quickly, reporting by MAHs in normal circumstances. So as I said, MAHs will report actual or potential shortages of centrally authorized products to the agency via the SMP, and this is already ongoing. We also have here included the links to the training. So there are additional information that you can, of course, use if you need to remind yourselves about the process for reporting of shortages of centrally authorized products to EMA via the SMP. So I will not really dwell on that, and I will move on to the next slide, where we're now talking about reporting in crisis situation or MSSG-led preparedness action. So this is the purpose of today's training, and we'll go through it in detail on how you as MAHs can provide information that is required in those situations. And I think what is important to give you as a heads up is that the reporting by MAHs for MSSG-led preparedness or crisis situation is absolutely the same. So the same data requirements are for the MSSG-led preparedness activities as well as for crisis. And we will go to that into detail during the training. Now, how does that process occur? So how will you be aware of a crisis situation or indeed an MSSG-led preparedness? So it's important to mention that a public health emergency or indeed a major event will be recognized by the European Commission, as I mentioned before, and also the MSSG will be activate these preparedness activities. So on one hand, public health emergency major event, there is a recognition by the European Commission that will trigger the process as per regulation 22.123. When it comes to preparedness action, there will be led by the MSSG. Now, the MSSG will adopt a list of critical medicines specific for that particular public health emergency or major event. So I already referred to the example of COVID-19 and Mpox. And will also identify the medicines that will be in scope of the MSSG-led preparedness action. And I will get through the case study on the antibiotics. It will be MSSG that will also define the frequency of reporting. And you might ask, why do we have to define a frequency of reporting? It might change throughout a particular public health emergency or indeed an MSSG-led preparedness activity, depending on the situation. So it might be that, for instance, in the onset of a public health emergency, that the frequency of reporting will be perhaps every week or every 2 weeks. But when we are into the public health emergency or towards the end of that public health emergency, reporting might not be required to be so frequent. So that's why there is flexibility there. And EMA, of course, will notify MAHs of all the medicines in scope, of the requirements for reporting, and of course we will use our contacts, the ISPOC, the industry single points of contact, for that notification. So it is important that we have your ISPOC up to date in the system. Now, MAHs will submit, so you will be submitting your information via the SMP as per the frequency that has been agreed, and will be also as the role of the MSSG to announce the end of the activities. And that will be based on determination of a public health emergency or confirmation that the major event or indeed the preparedness actions have been sufficiently addressed. And we will again notify MAHs that reporting through the SMP is no longer required. So this is where we are when it comes to communication. Now, I wanted to just give you an example of an MSSG-led preparedness, and this is the case study of the antibiotics. Just very quickly, I think you all remember shortages of amoxicillin and amoxiclav antibiotics in the autumn of 22-23. So the agency put in place a number of activities starting in November of 22, and we launched a SPOC working party subgroup that looked at the root causes of the shortage and also the impact throughout the European Union. But the SPOC working party as well as the MSSG shared best practices to address those critical shortages, and we've issued an MSSG toolkit with all those different mitigating actions for critical shortages. And I think very important, we cooperated with MAHs, with national competent authorities through the SPOC working party and the MSSG, but also with EU institutions, and very importantly with international regulators and healthcare professionals and patients. Now, in terms of communication, we went beyond our traditional communication tools. So we used the shortage catalog, but we had dedicated public communication as well during the autumn of 22-23. So in terms of exactly deliverables from that exercise, we've looked into the supply chain of amoxicillin and clavulanic acid. We've identified supplies for member states, additional supplies of those antibiotics for the member states. There were flexibilities that were put in place for packaging requirements. We've accelerated, for instance, SEPs, so that we could increase the production of APIs for those antibiotics, and we accelerated procedures when that was required. Now, this was a reactive approach. What I've just gone through was a reactive approach during 22-23 winter. What we've realized that because of the long lead times for the manufacture of antibiotics, we needed to have a more proactive approach, and that's when we launched that MSSG-led preparedness. So what we're talking about, this action where we were matching supply and demand for a subset of antibiotics. And this was in order to prepare for the winter of 23-24, so that we would not be faced with the same situation with so many shortages and critical shortages throughout the European Union. So here we went beyond amoxicillin and amoxiclav. We had a subset of antibiotics that we look into supply predictions from a subset of the key suppliers for those antibiotics. And also we looked at demand. So what would be the demand for those antibiotics expected in the European Union? And then we matched the supply data with the demand data. And we could then understand whether there was a need for EU-level actions to ensure sufficient supply for patients. So the MSSG put forward a number of recommendations to stakeholders, not only limited to MAHs, but also healthcare professionals and patients. And these allow really an early risk identification and planning, not only by MAHs, but also national competent authorities. We've seen that as a result of this exercise, we increased cooperation with industry. We had a number of discussions at the level of the SPOC Working Party and MSSG with MAHs, and that very much facilitated the process to ensure that patients had their medicines in the winter of 23-24. We've also engaged in a social media campaign because we understand that only looking at supply and demand alone is not sufficient. So we need cooperation from all stakeholders in the supply chain. So it was very important also to communicate to healthcare professionals, patients, and the public at large. So I move now to my last slide. Why is this important? Why are we talking about MSSG-led preparedness? Because we want to move towards prevention of shortages, and that's why the ESMP will be key in allowing us to have more accurate, complete, and fast information on shortages, but also will help us monitor supply and demand. So the exercise that I was referring to in my previous slide, all the work was done manually. Now we have the SMP for not only collection of data by MAHs and national competent authorities, but in addition to that, we have data analytics platform that allow us to do that matching of the supply and demand data in a very efficient manner. But we have also all the information in a central repository that will help us look into all the information together and put in place measures to prevent shortages of medicines. Now, these activities and the development of the SMP will also allow us to work towards harmonization of reporting standards across the European Union, and we are working with the member states at the level of the SPOC Working Party to move towards harmonization. And that's also been done at the level of the Joint Action on Shortage Adjustment, so moving towards harmonization. And last but not least, the SMP will ensure easier collaboration amongst all actors through this central platform. And as I mentioned already, it will facilitate data analysis through the data analytics capabilities for matching supply and demand data. And that will really give us valuable information in terms of cooperation with stakeholders and to put forward EU coordinated actions to prevent shortages and move from let's say, a more reactive approach to shortages to a preventive approach. And this was my last slide, so I'm happy to give the floor back to Pedro. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much for opening this ceremony from the business point of view. I will now give the floor to Sofia Zastavnik and Pietro Patti. You have 5 minutes each to give us a sneaky peek of the SMP overall and access management.
Thank you, Pedro. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our session. So I'll start with a short overview, although I'm sure the majority of you are already familiar with that. Now, of course, what the ESMP does is that it enables information exchange because ultimately we want to prevent, identify, and manage shortages. In the prevention part, of course, we have prevention monitoring and management, and we do that via data collection. So we get shortage information, we get information on supply and demand, and there's also the part of the ISPOC registration. Matching of supply and demand is the ultimate goal here. We also report findings and results, and we also will be making public reports. And the case management part of the platform is also a very important part, which the EMA staff uses to then handle, triage, and manage shortages which are reported to us. So we also do the maintenance of critical lists of products, and we evaluate and manage shortages. ESMP is highly integrated with other data systems. So we have SPORE, IAM, and IRIS integration fully within the ESMP. And we are working on interoperability with NCA and industry systems. So the system will have two secure access parts. One of them is for the industry and another one for the NCA, so the national competent authorities. There is also an open access platform which gives information on shortages which have been assessed. So yes, so these are the four main parts. In terms of the release timelines, so we went live at the end of November, and industry already started reporting shortages of centrally authorized products, and from the 2nd of February that is mandatory to be done through the SMP. And also at the end of January we went live with all the other functionalities of the SMP, which include also crisis and MSSG-led preparedness reporting, and that's what we'll be talking today. Of course, we will not stop here. So after February, we're focusing on maintenance and improvements, and any feedback and any bugs that we are receiving. And then I'm going to pass it over to Pietro to take us through the access management.
Thank you, Sofia. So I'm Pietro, and I'm customer portfolio lead in EMA. I'm supporting also ESMP project. Now we are going to review some changes that occurred in access management. In particular, EMA has introduced the EMA email authentication to simplify access and enhance security in EMA application. The first thing we would like to do is to highlight what is changing, what is staying the same. What stays the same is the activation of the EMA account that is still needed, as well the registration of your organization in OMS, and the request to have a role in ESMP. And moreover, the multi-factor authentication is always required and remain. What is actually changing is the sign-in experience with which you need to use your own email address. Many of you are probably already doing so since there have been a conversion process and different communication have been sent during the last month by our IM colleagues to inform about it and to ask you to opt in to email authentication. So we kindly ask you to refer to the event held the 20th of September by our IM colleague, in which they explain very well what is actually changing in EMA account management. Next slide, please. Okay, moreover, if you have more question about the part that stayed the same, we also here ask you to please refer to the event held the 20th of November, in which my colleague already explained all the part related to ESMP role profile, so the difference between ESMP user and ESMP admin roles, the prerequisites to engage and to access to ESMP, and the overall process for requesting and approving roles in ESMP, for ESMP. We leave you here the user guide and the link to the event in which all these parts are very well explained. Next slide, please. So with the email authentication method, you will no longer need to remember EMA username and password. This method of authentication allows you to log in with using your own email address. In particular, if your company is using Azure Active Directory, you will be redirected to your organization signing page, and there you simply enter your password to log in. While if your organization is not using Azure ID, you will receive a one-time passcode or OTP code via email, and then you use this passcode to enter to ESMP. We would like also to highlight that there is a known issue that allows you to still use the old method, so the one with @id.ema.europe.eu, but we encourage you to use the new email address authentication because you are going to enforce it to use this new method. You should also have received different emails and notification that informed you about this conversion. Otherwise, we kindly ask you to opt into email authentication by following this instruction that we'll link here. Next slide. So now we see from a system point of view what is actually changing. After you click Start Submitting or Sign In button in ESMP page, you will be redirected to the sign-in page. As you see, you just need to enter your email address instead of the email account, and then based off the organization IT architecture point system, you will be either redirected to your company sign-in page or receiving an OTP code via email. If I'm redirected to the my company login page, I need to insert my credential that I use in everyday work. Otherwise, I just need to enter the code that I've received via email. And the last part is to accept the EMA terms and conditions. You do this only in the first login. So so what is changing the sign-in experience. You just need to use your email address. And as I mentioned before, you're probably already doing so since most of the accounts have been converted to this new method. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pietro. I think we have now paved well the ground with overview of the business context and well framed in terms of regulation. Also, what is ESMP and how can we access to ESMP, particularly the changes between the last webinar and today's. So we move on now to maybe the core part of this training session is how to submit data to the ESMP when it comes to crisis and MSSG-led preparedness. And we have again Sofia Zastavnik.
Perfection, Pedro. You get better at it every time. So back to me again. So I hope you're sitting tight. So we're going to take you through a little journey through all the reporting functionalities through the ESMP. So this will be also partly a hands-on training, and we'll show you how the functionalities work, how the data needs to be compiled and uploaded. And don't worry, we'll have a coffee break in between some parts of the process. Now, so we're starting with the overview of the industry submissions. So, of course, in normal circumstances, MAHs need to report to the ESMP shortages of centrally authorized product. So there's some basic information on shortages that needs to be reported here, such as the basic shortage information, details, prevention mitigation plans, impact assessments, and alternative therapies, and also some other details. And they are triggered by a potential or an actual shortage. And the marketing authorization holders need to keep this data up to date, including the latest information at all times. However, when it comes to a crisis situation or an MSSG-led preparedness, MAHs will need to submit to us data on nationally and centrally authorized products, which are in scope of that particular critical medicines list for that particular public health emergency, major event, or preparedness situations. So again, as Monica described in depth, for each of these situations, their own list of critical medicines will be drawn up, and according to that list, that will also determine which marketing authorization holders need to report and for which products. Here, the list of information that needs to be reported is slightly bigger. So we're giving shortage information that needs to be provided, marketing status, information on market share, sales volume, forecast, stocks, also on manufacturing information, including production plans, capacity, alternative sites, but also information on alternative therapies. And that's what we'll be focusing today. And this is all triggered by an MSSG announcement, and they also determine the frequency of reporting. So yes, this is the scope of today's training. So as we said, for these two situations, the reporting follows the same reporting process and the data elements that need to be submitted through the ESMP. So regardless which of these situations is triggered, the same data needs to be provided. Now, this is a quick overview of the reporting process. So MSSG will come in and activate the preparedness actions, or when a public health emergency or major event is recognized by the European Commission, and then reporting is triggered. MSSG then defines the reporting frequency, and when all of this is defined, we will be notifying the MAHs with products in scope, telling them to begin reporting via ESMP, and of course, or also telling them about the reporting frequency. Then MAHs need to log into the ESMP to view the list of critical medicines which are assigned for their reporting. They will review the marketing status of centrally authorized products and update the information if needed. So this information submitted in IRIS. And then they will be inserting information on marketing status of nationally authorized products, submitting information on availability and manufacturing, and data on alternative therapies. Now, I know this is a lot of information on the slide, but we'll go through all this step by step. In the data input, of course, the process will be that you download the pre-fill reporting templates or enter the data in the relevant web form. You will be compiling, uploading, and submitting that information, and submitting updates according to the frequency defined by the MSSG. This is what the platform will look like when there is a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness situation activated. So you will be logging into the platform, and this is the first screen you'll see. So it will say if you have medicines in scope of reporting, that you do. And then you will look at which medicines they are. So you will see the My Critical Medicines screen. And on the right-hand side, you have all the steps that need to be followed and all the data that needs to be submitted. At the same time, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, the routine shortage reporting functionality will always be there. So it could be that you have some products which are in scope of crisis or MSSG-led preparedness reporting, but you still have other cups for which you need to report shortages to the EMA. So the routine shortage reporting functionality will always be there, regardless if there is a crisis or an MSSG-led preparedness. So these are the steps to follow. So as you can see, submit marketing status CAP, submit marketing status NAP. So that will be the first steps to be done. And we will be telling you exactly for which products you need to submit that data. And then when this is done, you'll have to submit availability, manufacturing information, and information on alternative therapies. So we're going to go through that, as I said, step by step. Also, you will have your submission history where you see all the submissions that you have done previously. And if you click into the submission IDs, then you will also be able to see if you had any error messages while doing that upload and which ones they were. And if the upload was successful, that will say there as well. In terms of guidance and resources, we put a lot of effort to make sure that all industry members have easy access to documentation and videos on how to use the platform, navigate the platform, and submit the data. So as Pietro and Pedro also referred to before, we had a training on routine shortage reporting, and that is public and published on the EMA webpage. So there you have all the information on how to do that process, and you have step-by-step instructions and a demo also including for access management. In the user guides, you have the step-by-step instructions on how to navigate the platform and how to report the information. And we also have the implementation guide, where we have the exact reporting guidelines, which go through each field specifically, explain what information is expected there, in what format, and any rules to ensure that the document that you're uploading will pass all the validation checks. We also have template prototypes, so even if there is no crisis or MSSG-led preparedness active, that you can see what information needs to be submitted in those circumstances, and in at what level of granularity, and what data exactly needs to be put in. We also have the FAQ document, which we keep regularly updated with frequently asked questions by both industry and NCAs. So this is the example of an implementation guide. So as you can see, it goes by each field by field, and explains exactly what value is expected in that data element and what are the rules that need to be followed so that the upload is done successfully. Okay, now we'll go into the training scenario. So we want to enhance your understanding and to give you hands-on guidance. So we'll use a fictional scenario, which we'll use as example throughout this training. So with that, we'll illustrate some key points for data entry and demonstrate how to populate the templates accurately, and also give you some best practices to showcase common issues to avoid and steps to ensure that there is accurate reporting across different templates and granularities of data entry. Now, I want to point out that different templates indeed have different granularity of information to be inserted, as some information is important to be inserted at pack level, some of them at medicinal product level, where information on packs is not so relevant, and each of these steps has been tailor-made for that particular purpose, also with the help of our subject matter experts from the industry. So all the information that we're using in the demonstration is fictional and made purely for the purpose of this training. So we're using fictional products and fictional situations. And this is the scenario that we'll be using. So imagine we're seeing EU-wide critical shortages of rivastigmine, pantoprazole, and amoxicillin medicinal products, which caused MSSG to adopt and publish a list of medicines for close monitoring and start the MSSG-led preparedness action to monitor these particular products. So MSSG requests the monitoring to begin from the 1st of March, and the forecast period that they want to monitor is from March to August 2025. As MAH ESMP Pharma, so we are now acting as an MAH, we have the following CAP and NAP medicinal products in our portfolio that are included in the list of medicines for close monitoring. So we have rivastigmine ESMP, 4.5 milligrams, 112 hard capsules, which is a centrally authorized product, which means it's authorized in all EU and EEA member states. And we have 2 nationally authorized products, actually more than that, pantoprazole ESMP, 20 milligrams and 40 milligrams, a pack of 28 tablets, which are authorized in Austria. And another product authorized in Romania, which is called Delvax amoxicillin, which is a powder for oral suspension, and which comes in 60 and 100 milliliter bottles. Passing it to Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Sophia, for this introduction and the explanation of the scenario that we will go deeper in later. Now, to remind you, you can send your questions via Slido. We see that there are already about 60 questions in Slido. You can also upvote questions that are already raised there. We will answer the ones with the most upvotes first. Of course, join Slido with the QR code that is shown here on screen or via the website slido.com with the session code -ESMP hashtag ESMP-MAH. Then we will, of course, also be showing the questions on screen in the Q&A session, and most frequently asked questions we will also compile an FAQ document and update that on the ESMP webpage. Now, if we move on, we engage you in a little quiz, so please join the Slido for this quiz. We would like to ask you which of the following statements are true to check in and engage you. Multiple answers are possible here in this quiz. So the first statement is routine shortage reporting refers only to centrally authorized products, also called CAPs. The second statement is during a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness exercise, the MSSG will publish a dedicated list of critical medicines in scope of reporting requirements. The third statement, during a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness exercise, MAHs must report information on all products in the Union list of critical medicines. And the last statement, number 4, during a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness exercise, frequency of reporting is defined by each MAH, marketing authorization holder. So I see we already have about 80 people answering in the Slido. Thank you very much for this engagement. I will give a couple of more seconds for you to join into the quiz, give your answers. Again, multiple answers can be possible here, and we will solve the question later.
Yes, Stephanie, it's climbing very quickly to 200. So when it maybe reach that point, maybe you can show up the results.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you. You can still answer, but of course now we're showing on screen which statements are correct. Thank you very much for answering. The second statement here is answered by 94%, and that is very correct indeed. During a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness exercise, the MSSG will publish a dedicated list of critical medicines in scope of the reporting requirements, as Monica has explained earlier today. Also correct is that routine shortage reporting refers only to centrally authorized products. You do not need to report upon NAPs to the EMA via the ESMP in normal circumstances only. The other statements are not correct. So during a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness exercise, MAHs must report on the products in the specific list published for this specific crisis situation or preparedness action. Also, the last statement you have identified quite well is not correct. So during a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness exercise, the frequency of reporting is defined by the MSSG. Thank you very much, and moving on.
Thank you. Okay, it's good to see that we're being relatively clear on the messages that we're sending, and that you're following the training. So now let's get into back to the hands-on. So we have presented the scenario and what you will do when you get an email like that as an industry member, that you will log into the platform, and the first thing you will see is this bubble on the left, which says that you have medicines in scope of reporting. So by clicking to the medicines in scope of reporting, you will be redirected to the My Critical Medicines page. So the My Critical Medicines feature allows you to view all the medicines under your product portfolio that have been marked critical for a particular crisis or MSSG-led preparedness. The page will also show the related marketing status information of those products. This is what that page will look like. So again, you have all your critical products for that particular situation listed on the page. You see the product name, pack size, the country where it's authorized, whether it's a centrally authorized product or a nationally authorized product. And here when we say NAP, we're also referring to anything that's authorized nationally, so whether that's via national procedure, MRP, DCP, and I don't know if there's anything else that I'm missing. But indeed, so you can see that for NAPs here, no data has been provided, which is to be expected because marketing status information on NAPs only needs to be provided via the ESMP when there is a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness. So as you log in, it will say at the beginning that for your nationally authorized products, no data has been provided yet. However, for the centrally authorized products, as you always have reporting requirements to tell us about the marketing status of centrally authorized products via IRIS and to keep it up to date continuously, we are importing that information on all the centrally authorized products in scope of your reporting and listing them per each EU country and each of the packs with their marketing status. So you can review that here. And this is a demo on how the page will look. I think it should, yes, there we are. So you're logging into the page and you have all this on your screen. It says that you have medicines in scope of reporting, and on the right hand side it gives you the checklist of the steps that you should be following. Also on the left hand side, all of these steps to be followed are listed there as well. So if you click into medicines in scope of reporting, the page will open up and show you all this information. On the right hand side, you also have filters, so you can filter for any particular product that you would like to review in depth. And as you see, all the cups are listed with all their EU and EEA countries, with their packs, and the information on the marketing status, which is coming from IRIS. So you have a full overview of the products which are in scope of your reporting requirements. So now we're filtering for NAPs, for example, and we see that for these products, we need to provide the marketing status. There is also the download table button, which allows you to download all this information in an Excel and then review it there. That was a particular request that we got during the UAT, which was something that we were able to build in before we went live with the MVP. So as you see, all the information is listed here, so you can review whether it's correct, and then for nationally authorized products, you can update that data directly in the ESMP. And for centrally authorized products, if you feel like there is information that needs to be updated, you can do it in IRIS. And we'll show that in a second as well. Now, how to update the marketing status. So this is the first actual step that you need to do in terms of checking and submitting data. Because the information on the marketing status will have an impact on reporting in other steps. So first, we're going into the general principles on the marketing status. So as I said, for the marketing status of centrally authorized products, that is always required and a standard legal obligation. And this information needs to be reported and kept up to date at all times via IRIS. In terms of nationally authorized products, for these products, you need to report the marketing status only for critical products when a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness is active for that particular product, and this information is reported via ESMP while the reporting requirements are active. Only products which are marked as marketed or temporarily unavailable will be eligible for reporting availability information in the ESMP. So availability is a particular reporting template, and we'll get to it in a second. So for that particular reporting flow, we're only taking into consideration products which are marketed or temporarily unavailable. So for marketing status for cups, you will also have it here on the home page and the site navigation, and we will be directing you to Iris to view the data and make sure that it is entered correctly and is fully up to date. So as we said, products which are not marketed, never marketed, and for which no data has been provided will not be included in the availability information reporting flow in the ESMP, to which we'll get in a second. And these are the links where you will be able to be redirected to the Iris platform and make any amendments to the data if needed. And you will see these amendments then reflected in the My Critical Medicines page. In terms of marketing status for NAPs, that logically now follows the checklist, and for this, data needs to be submitted directly to the ESMP. So the same principles apply. You need to tell us what's the marketing status for these particular products in scope of reporting requirements for crisis and MSSG-led preparedness, and also the availability. The products which will show up in the availability template are only the ones which have a marketed or temporarily unavailable marketing status. This will be the data shown in the marketing status for NAPs reporting template. As you can see, we pre-populated with product information. So we will tailor for you specifically according to your affiliation and the list of critical medicines which is active at that point, for which products you need to then report. So the whole product information section, as it is shown now on the screen, will be pre-populated for you, and you have to download the template and then insert the details on the marketing status, which is very few data elements. And just to actually focus here on for a second, the information that we'll be asking from you is the actual marketing status, and also to tell us the date of the planned permanent withdrawal, if there is any planned and upcoming. And we added a free text field to let us know what is the situation and perhaps the reason why you are planning to withdraw the product. Okay, so this will be what the information will be pre-populated with. So with the fictional products that we're using, this is what the Excel will look like with this data pre-populated. So basic information on the product, active substance strength, pharmaform, pack size, packaging, and the country of authorization. Here on the last three columns on the right, we're actually putting the information that needs to be pre-populated. As you can see, for marketing status, we're inserting RMS identifiers, and that is explained in depth in the implementation guide. And we're putting down the date of the planned withdrawal and a comment as well. So as you can see, the bottom two marketing status RMS identifier apply to the state marketed, and the first one means temporarily unavailable, and the last one means that that product in that country is not really marketed. So it's important to note that we're leaving the marketing status as marketed for the product which we're planning to withdraw in 2026, as up to then that product will still be marketed. After that, the product is not marketed, and then the information on the marketing status needs to be updated in the ESMP if the crisis or MSSG-led preparedness is still active. So the information there in this reporting template needs to be kept up to date and updated whenever there's any change in the marketing status of the NAPs. And we'll show you now how that reporting process works. So as you can see on the left hand side, we go to the navigation and we're downloading the reporting template. So it's pre-populated with the product information and we're populating this information. So now we've populated it with the RMS identifiers and the date and the planned withdrawal comment. We save the file and we upload it. So we go to the new submission. It tells you exactly for which data reporting flow you're choosing to submit the data. And then you add the file. It's important to point out that you can only submit one file at a time. And then you get to the page once you've submitted when the file is being processed. And if it has any errors, they will show up in this screen and there will be a failed message. But ours was a success, which means that we have successfully submitted the data. If you want to review that, you can go to the submission history. You can see that the upload that you have just done was successful. But also you can access the submission history via the side navigation and you will get to the same information. And now if you go back to the View My Critical Medicines page, you will see that the marketing status of these products has been updated. So you can see that for these NAPs, the information is now updated with the data that we have submitted. So that's it for the marketing status. Now we're going to the bulk of the information, which is the availability information, manufacturing, and the alternative therapies. So as we said, the marketing status information needs to be submitted first because it will have an impact on the other information that we are submitting. And of course, you can also move around through these in the navigation pane on the left. Okay, let's jump into availability. So the reporting process is similar to the one for marketing status of NAP. So you will be downloading the template. So you will retrieve it from the ESMP and it will include all the products in scope on scope of reporting, which are tailored to your organization and your affiliation, including the latest version of any previously inserted data if available, which is actually also the case for the marketing status of NAPs or any other reporting process in the SMP. If you go and download the reporting template after you have submitted some data, that download will contain the latest version of the information that you have previously submitted. So you always have a reference to the latest version of the data. And if you need to submit any updates, you don't need to insert all the data from scratch. In essence, you can just make any amendments to the file and upload it again. So step 2, you will of course populate the template, you will enter the required information and ensure accuracy and completeness, and you will upload the data to the SMP and confirm that the upload was indeed successful, or if there are any errors, you will amend the information and upload it again. So this is the information that is included in the availability template. So as you can see, we again pre-populate the information on the products. And I think we're focusing on that here indeed. So the information is coming from PMS. So we're, as I said, pre-populating data for you, so you know exactly which products you need to report for. The marketing status information, you can maybe notice that the last purple field is marketing status. So we're including that information in this template just for information. So this is a read-only field and is not, the marketing status which is displayed there is not to be changed. So we are importing data for the marketing status of caps coming from Iris. So if any changes need to be done to that information, you need to do them in Iris and they will be reflected in this template. And for nationally authorized products, again, you need to follow the dedicated reporting flow, which I have just described. And then any changes will also then be reflected in this template. But we included the marketing status information here, again, just for information, so you can see when you're reporting availability information, why particular products are included and why not. Then, as I said, only products which are marketed or temporarily unavailable in terms of their marketing status will be showing up in this template. So again, if this information is not correct or you find any products missing, you need to go and update them then in Iris or via the marketing status of NAPS functionality in the ESMP, and then those changes will be reflected in this template. Now, hands-on, what would that look like for our product? So all the centrally authorized products will be listed with each of the EU EEA countries. So you will see all of the countries listed in that particular Excel. We have, as you can see in the last row, we have only included Slovakia, just for reference, but of course there will be many more fields. This is not this is just an excerpt of that particular Excel. The nationally authorized products will each be listed in their line with all their product information. The first field you need to populate is the shortage information. Here we have basic information on the shortage status, the dates, why the shortage is happening, where are the issues occurring, the root cause of the shortage, and additional information which we are asking you to provide to us if you have that information, as this free text information comes very handy in terms of assessing the shortage. And for these fields, you need to input information using the RMS ID standard identifiers, which we'll show again in a second. You can also put in multiple values, which need to be inserted with semicolons between them. So you can have, of course, multiple root causes of the shortage, multiple points in the supply chain where any disruption occurs, and so on and so forth. All of this is explained in depth in the ESMP implementation guide. And please also note the format for the dates. So you can see that only in this particular excerpt that we put on the slide, only one of the products is actually in shortage. And we're putting in the dates of the shortage. We're saying what the point in the supply chain is where the issue is occurring. And here we put RMS identifiers, which refer to importation, distribution of released products, and the root cause of the shortage are distribution issues which pertain to import restrictions. So this template is asking you to give information on shortages, but then also information on supply and forecasts in supply and stocks and similar information. So this all data needs to be populated whether you have a shortage or not. As you can see here, the majority of the products are not in shortage, but still the rest of the information in this template for them will have to be populated. Yes, I also saw we had in the slide countries in which distribution issues occur. So again, for this product where we have a shortage, we have populated Belgium here with its 2-digit ISO code, and we're adding more information on what the issue is. Then we get to the shortage prevention and mitigation plans and another free text field where you can tell us about ongoing and planned steps. but please note that these fields do not require you to submit the SPMP templates, which have recently been published by the EMA. But if you choose to submit the SPMP templates, then you can mention it in the free text here as well. Because here in this particular template, we are asking you only to give us RMS standard identifiers for a predefined list of values, and I'll show you in a second. So it's very simple information. And again, if you want to submit multiple values, you just need to separate them with semicolons. So this is what that particular, the values for that particular field look like. And this is what I'm referring to when I say RMS values. So RMS is our referential lists, and we are using in the ESMP often the identifiers which represent particular values. So you will be entering this numerical information which represents each of these terms. This is due to basically technical reasons, because then if you are inputting multiple values, you are easily able to input them, insert them with semicolons, whereas if you had to input these large amounts of text, that very often would cause errors. Therefore, the numerical information is more prone to data quality of the input of data. In terms of the market share, we are asking you to input the latest year-to-date market share data at pack level to be provided as a whole number. And it needs to address both hospital and non-hospital markets. And again, all of this is explained in depth in the ESMP implementation guide. So as an example, you see we put in the RMS ID, which means that we have prioritized supplies to critical, that we plan to prioritize supplies to critical customers. And in the free text field, we said investigation of mitigation strategies ongoing. The market share here is provided per each product, and we're also giving more information that this data represents extracts which were taken at a particular point in time. Now getting to the sales volume and forecast, we will be asking you to give us sales volume pre-public health emergency or major event, which should reflect the full year monthly average of monthly packs sold in a specific member state before there was a crisis, if that's applicable. And we're also asking you about the current sales volume and the forecast. So we need to understand how much packs you have sold in the last 4 weeks, but also we will be asking you about the expected number of packs to be sold in a particular member state during the forecasting period. So the forecasting period will be a period of 6 months, and these data needs to be inserted for each of these months. So if you remember in the training scenario, we told you that the forecasting period will be March to August. So the data needs to be provided for these months. And also, I think it's important to say for this entire template, the data needs to be submitted at packaged medicinal level, also per country. Exactly. So now we're talking about the supply forecast, which is different from the sales forecast, as the supply forecast collects data on the expected availability of packs sold in a specific member state for that forecasting period of 6 months. So it should reflect the number of packs anticipated to enter the market, considering production schedules, stock levels, and distribution plans. And more information on that is also provided in the implementation guide. So this is what the data would look like for these particular data elements. So again, a lot of numerical information and some information entered as in the free text fields, where you can give more background on the situation at hand. Now we get to the stocks, where we're talking about the available stocks, so the number of packs physically available and owned by the MAH at the time of submission, intended for distribution to a specific member state. And the last field there is desired safety stocks, which collects the number of packs maintained as buffer by the marketing authorization holders to manage demand fluctuations and ensure continuous supply to patients in a specific member state. Again, these are all pretty technical terms, but we go in depth into each and one of them in the implementation guide. And of course, there's also a free text field where you can give us more information on the stocks. And this is what that would look like. So an excerpt of that Excel. And that, in essence, is all the information in the availability template. So it's one of our bigger templates, and we'll show you now how to download, compile, and upload the information here. So again, as you can see, it's in the left-hand navigation, but also on the home page. So each one of these takes you to the same page, which is the availability information page. So again, the process is the same. You're downloading the template, populating the data, and uploading it. Also, when you're uploading the data, you can feel free to change the name of the file. So as you can see, the data is pre-populated for you, listed at package medicine product level for each of the countries. You can also see the marketing status there. And all the fields, the first time you download it, will be empty. So we're now populating this information with all the relevant data elements. As you can see, the dates are entered in the day, month, year format, and you can see where we put in the RMS identifiers as well, free text, but also numeric data. And this is an example of what a correct population of the information would look like. Some of these fields are mandatory, some of them are conditional, and also some of them are optional, and all of that is described in the implementation guide. So we'll now be saving the file. And again, all the information which is coming from PMS also cannot be changed via this template, as this is read-only information. So if the PMS information is not correct, it needs to be changed in PMS, and then it will be reflected here. So in the meantime, we click the button to submit a new file. We're adding it in, submitting, and that will now trigger the validations. As you can see, now the file is being processed, and that could take a long time based on how many products you have. So if you have a large amount of products, then this process can take a longer time, and you can also log out of the ESMP. The process will run in the background, and maybe even the next day you can come back and check the submission history, and you will see whether your submission, in essence, has been processed correctly, or if you had any errors in your submission. And now, for a bit of a change, back to Stephanie.
Yes, thank you so much for those explanations. So now we would like to engage you again in a quiz to see if you've understood what we've just tried to train you on. So please join again at slido.com. You can enter the code #ESMP-MAH or scan the QR code on the screen here and you can enter the Slido. The quiz question number 2 is also, which of the following statements are true? There are again multiple answers possible. So marketing status information for cups can be updated directly in the ESMP is the first statement. The second one, MAHs can view their products in scope of reporting in the My Critical Medicines page. Statement number 3, product information will be pre-populated in ESMP templates from the EMA's Product Management Services, PMS. And the last statement, shortage information is mainly reported via free text fields. Okay, So these are the 4 statements. Again, multiple answers are possible. Please tick all that you think are true, and we will resolve the question soon when we reach about 200 participants again. I see we are quickly climbing up. Select your vote now, and I think we can already go to the next slide. Thank you so much. This looks amazing. It seems that the information we presented was very clear to you. Thank you so much. So indeed, the second and the third statement are correct, as shown here in green. MAHs can view their products and scope of reporting in the My Critical Medicines page, and also product information will be pre-populated in the ESMP templates from the EMA's Product Management Services, PMS. Not correct is that marketing status information for CAPs, centrally authorized products, can be updated directly in the ESMP. This is not correct. As explained, this information needs to be updated in IRIS if you identify that the information shown is not correct, or if the products do not show up in the ESMP, it has to be checked in IRIS. Also, the last statement, shortage information is mainly reported via free text fields, is not correct. Most of the fields are not free text fields and have their validation rules, but we would also ask you to also enter all information, additional information that you can give us in the free text fields to ease the process for us and not make us come back to you for the additional information that we would like to have in the free text fields. So thank you so much. With this, I hand back to Pedro.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Indeed, 262 results, good result. It's a very good sample. So it's more than 30% of the population or participants in the meeting today, and gives good insight that all of you have done a good job so far. And thank you for attending this meeting, and thank you for the participation in the quiz. I think maybe it's time to have the coffee break now. Sophia took us through the core functionalities, how to submit MSSG-led preparedness and crisis data into the SMP. Just a reminder, right now we are in routine shortage mode. We do not have any crisis or MSSG-led preparedness event um, uh, um, declared by the MSSG. It's also good news for the companies that have experienced routine shortages submission. In case in the future you will have to submit crisis data or MSSG, you will see that the user experience is quite identical, although the content of the information will be different, but you will see that the product has been designed to offer an identical user experience when you navigate through the system. So it will help you to conquer more experience and tick your box and meet your objectives when you have to submit data. So I think we can have now the coffee break. I'm looking at Stephanie. 5-10 minutes. 10. 5? Yes, Stephanie doesn't allow me to say 10 minutes. So I've been convinced by her that we have to stick with the 5 minutes. I tried, but it was not enough. So we will see again at 11. 30. 30, yeah, 30 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so we are back, and we will continue a few more minutes with Sophia, and then we move on to interoperability. Sophia, please.
Thank you, Pedro. Hope that I have everyone back. I am painfully aware that this is a lot of information that we're giving to you now, but also the point of this is to have a resource to come back to once you have to input this information. Although we're still we're hoping that there will be no crisis and there will be no shortage situations that we'll have to closely monitor around the EU, but here's to hoping. Okay, so I'll take you now through the last two reporting data flows. So as you can see, we've discussed the marketing status of cups, marketing status of naps, availability information, and now we're going to how to submit information on manufacturing. Okay, so this is the data elements that will be in your manufacturing information reporting template. So the information again will have the data elements from PMS pre-populated for you. And also it will list the information on the manufacturer organizations and their locations. Against that, we will be asking you to give us information on the manufacturing details, so the manufacturing site status and whether it is a contract manufacturer. We'll be asking you about alternative sites and also the production capacity. So manufacturing details and alternative sites is mostly qualitative information, and in the production capacity we're asking you about actual quantitative information on your global production. So let's dive into it. The information is presented at medicinal product level, so not at the package level. And as I said, so the PMS information will be pre-populated and cannot be changed by changing that data in the ESMP. So here, information from PMS also includes the, as I said, organizations and the locations of the manufacturing steps, which are in PMS. So this is again not a full excerpt, but just a quick look of how part of that Excel will look like to you. So you will have the PMS ID, you will have the centrally authored there as well as the nationally authorized ones. So as we, when we were building the platform, there was no data on the manufacturing of nationally authorized products available. So in this template and in this demo, for now, you will only see the data on centrally authorized products. But of course, we all know that there is a requirement to insert the manufacturing information on nationally authorized products. So as they are populated, they will be also showing up in the ESMP. So as I said just now, so in this demo, in this template, you will see multiple and all manufacturing steps listed for centrally authorized products, whereas for NAPs, we have pre-populated the information to represent the manufacturing of active substance and the bulk product without packaging and labeling. So as we had no information on the actual locations of the manufacturing of NAPs, we pre-populated them just to reflect the manufacturing of the active substance and the final product without, of course, labeling and packaging, as we're looking for global information. And that will be now what you will see in those templates. And again, we are encouraging you to enter manufacturing data into PMS, so this data will then be pre-populated in this template as well, and you can submit information against the actual manufacturing locations, organizations, and different operation types. So for now, This is what the data in this template looks like for central authorized products. So as you can see, there's different operation types here, and in the template there will be many more that which we are taking from PMS for these centrally authorized products. So they will come be pre-populated with their organization IDs of the manufacturer and the manufacturer name, and followed by the location ID and the city and country of those manufacturing locations. And of course, we have put in some fictional information. For nationally authorized products, as I have just said before, since at the time of building the product there was no manufacturing information for NAPs, we have pre-populated the operation type, manufacture of active substance, and processing operations for the medicinal product, which represents again the final manufacturing step of the active substance and of the finished product without labeling and packaging. So each national authorized product will have these two operation types, because we will need you to insert data on the production capacity and plan for these two steps. So we want the information on the active substance and the finished product without labeling and packaging. So the manufacturing details here are asking you whether the manufacturing site is an active site or a backup site, and whether you are actually using a contract manufacturer, because that will have an impact on the other fields, as we know that if you are using a contract manufacturer, you will not have information on global production capacities of the active substance or the finished product on that site. Actually, I know I'm not allowed to say finished product. It's officially called manufactured item without labeling and packaging. In the alternative sites field, we will be asking you about manufacturing sites which are not currently listed in the marketing authorization of the product in question, but could be used to partially or fully manufacture the active substance or the finished product. So again, manufactured item without packaging and labeling. Here we're asking you about the location ID of that alternative site, if it's registered in OMS and available, but if it's not registered in OMS, this needs to be left blank, and the alternative site country just needs to be pre-populated. So between the alternative site location ID and the country, only one of these fields needs to be populated, but not both, as if we have the location ID, we know what the country of that location is, and vice versa. Well, actually, if we have the country, then we don't need the loc ID unless you have it. So, and also multiple values can be entered here for both fields, so you can have multiple alternative sites in different countries. And again, for the country, the data needs to be inserted as a 2-digit ISO identifier. So this is what the information would look like when it's populated for the manufacturing site status, whether it's a CRO, and a loc ID, as you can see here, has been populated for one of the fields, and in the other, we just put China as an alternative site country. So rather basic information there. Now we get to the production capacity, which, as I said, is the quantitative information. So we would need you to input data on the global production plans, including future production estimates and the baseline and peak production outputs from the previous years. So this will need to be inserted for the active pharmaceutical ingredients and the manufactured item, again in bulk without packaging and labeling. So here we're looking for global numbers of the active substance and that particular product as a manufactured item. So we want to know what will be the global monthly production plans for the following 6 months, actually the 6 months of the forecast period, whatever the forecast period is. And also we're looking to establish some baseline. So we'll be asking you about the average global monthly production output of the previous year, and what was the peak global monthly production output in a particular month in a previous year. Again, all of these data elements are explained in depth in the implementation guide. The unit of measurement is also a field there where we're entering information as kilos for the API or units for the manufactured item. So this is what this information is going to look like in your Excel. So the unit of measurement, actually let's focus on the lower part of the screen first. So as we said, operation type means that we're referring to the active, the quantities of the active substance and the location of the active substance. And where the operation type is processing operations for the medicinal product, it means that we're referring to the finished product without packaging and labeling. So where you see manufacture of active substance for unit of measurement, it will be pre-populated with kilos. And for the processing operations, it will be populated with units. So these are the two fields where we're, the two operation types where we are expecting you to enter quantitative information. So the information on the production plans. For all other operation types, you don't need to enter information on the production capacity. So again, we want to get the information how much of the active substance and how much of the manufactured item without the labeling and without packaging you will be making globally. Now we get to the representative product, which is a data element which we introduced because we know that many of the products which are authorized nationally are in essence the same product in terms of their manufacturing, a type of manufacturing, how it's manufactured, the ingredients, and the finished product. However, they only have different packaging and labeling. Therefore, to then enable you to enter this information only once for a group of products, we came up with the idea of the representative product. So the concept of that is to actually make your life easier when you're inputting this data, so you don't need to repeat the information. So you use one product as your representative product, and then you refer to these products in all other products which are in essence the same, manufactured in the same way. So to say it nicely, so it's a medicinal product whose manufacturing details, production plan, and capacity can be used as a reference for another product with an identical manufacturing process up to packaging and labeling, produced at the same sites and following the same global production plan. So again, it's allowing you to enter that manufacturing information only once for a group of products, and then with that reducing duplicate entries for equivalent products. And here we try to explain what we mean by that. So here on the screen, you see the pantoprazole ESMP 20 and 40 milligrams. So since it's a nationally authorized product, and again, at the time of building the product, there were no manufacturing sites for these products, we have inserted two operation types, which refer to the active substance and the manufactured item. So as you can see, the 20 and 40 milligram ones, they will have different quantities of the finished product, and the finished product is different because it is of a different strength. However, the active substance is done with the same manufacturer, so the production capacity can be entered only once. And as you can see, for the 40 milligram strength, we have just inserted that the production capacity and all the other data elements we have input for the product with the PMS ID ending with 370, and therefore no other information needs to be provided for the field which has a representative product. So no other data then needs to be filled in there, because we know that all these products are produced in the same way, so the active substance manufacturing information is inserted only once for a group of products. I hope that explains it a bit better. So let's see what that will look like when we submit the data. So again, the same screen, we go to the side navigation or in the home navigation, clicking on manufacturing information, we're downloading the template, which will then be pre-populated with the manufacturing information. So as you can see, the information on the organizations and the locations is pre-populated. So for centrally authorized products now is there, for nationally authorized products now it is not, but it will be added there in the following iterations of the product. So it will be entered there shortly. And again, we are encouraging you to enter this information in PMS so we can use it in the ESMP. So where you see kilos, we have entered the information on the production capacity of the APIs. So this is what a centrally authorized product will look currently in the ESMP once it's downloaded. So all the operation types with all their locations and organizations entered there. And we are populating the information where it says units and kilograms. Yes, exactly. So there's multiple sites which produce the active substance, and we are entering the production capacity for those. And where it says units, we are entering the production capacity for the manufactured item. So now if we show what the information will look like for nationally authorized products, okay, so let's show that quickly. And this is what it will look like. So the representative product, we input the information on, and then no other information needs to be put there. And we are populating it with the relevant info. And of course, the template will be empty, except for the pre-populated data elements on the product information and on the operation types, organizations of manufacturing, and locations. And as you can see, we have put in the representative product here as discussed in the slide. I'm trying to move to the next slide. Can we just check if the video got paused? Yeah, okay. There we go. So we can see that the product with the PMS ID ending with 370 has been inserted there. So we have populated all the necessary information, and we'll now go and submit the information. Again, so it's the same reporting process which you have seen for other data flows. And we're uploading a single file. And the file is being submitted. Okay, we see a failure, and we're seeing the validation results, which tell you exactly what the issue is, and they're pointing to the exact cell position. And there is a message which will explain what the issue is. So now we need to open the file and correct that. And then we'll be able to upload the data again. So we're seeing that the data, the issue was pertaining to rows 28 and 29. And we're seeing that the alternative site country, we put in the full name, rather than the ISO identifier, so that now needs to be changed. So we're amending the data, saving it, and then uploading again. And now the submission was successful. Yes, and here in the submission history, we'll see that that particular submission was successful. And that is it. So the same data submission process that you have seen for the other flows.
Yes, thank you so much for the explanation of the manufacturing information template. So now we do a speed round of a Slido question again, because we're running a bit late. So the question is here again, of course you can join on slido.com with the code shown on screen or the QR code. The question is, which of the following statements are true? Again, multiple answers are possible. Manufacturing information details can be aggregated in a representative product for a group of products that follow the identical manufacturing process, is statement number 1. Secondly, manufacturing information needs to be filled for every product in scope of reporting, even if they follow the same manufacturing process. Statement 3, organization information will always be pre-populated only for centrally authorized products. And statement number 4, organization information will be pre-populated for both centrally and nationally authorized products where applicable. So I see that maybe we reach into 150 participants this time, as we're running a bit behind. We are almost there. You can, of course, still cast your vote. And I would say we go to the resolution of this question. So, indeed, I see that most of you, again, have chosen the right answers. So, of course, statement number 1 is correct, that what Sophia just explained, manufacturing information details can be aggregated in a representative product. Very important, so you don't have to enter information for all shown products in the template, but you can choose to have the representative product. And also, statement number 4, organization information will be pre-populated for both centrally and nationally authorized products where applicable. Instead, the organization information will always be pre-populated only for centrally authorized products is not correct, as we will keep the NAP information as well, as they were already, or if they were already pre-submitted. The last statement, manufacturing information needs to be filled for every product in scope of reporting, even if they follow the same manufacturing process, is incorrect. I refer here again to the first statement, where we have the representative product in these cases. Thank you so much, and back to Sophia.
Okay, so we're getting to alternative therapies, which is the last and, may I say, simplest reporting process. So hold on tight. We have just a bit more left, and I find that this process is, in essence, as I said, easiest, but also needs to be submitted only once, unless there is any change of information in the alternative therapies, but you'll see that in a second. So as I said, a pretty straightforward reporting template. So we will generate a web form. So this is slightly different than all the other data flows, as you will be entering data directly excuse me, in the page of the ESMP. So the web form will have information on products tailored to your affiliation, and of course the products which are in scope of reporting. So it will be again pre-populated with information from PMS, but it will be aggregated. So centrally authorized products will be grouped by invented name, active substance, and pharmaceutical form, and all the nationally authorized products will be grouped by active substance and pharmaceutical form. And then we'll ask you just to input the information on alternative therapies as substances and compositions of substances, or if there's no alternatives at all, to tell us that as well. And I just want to point out that the information that the company submit here is just the information up to their best knowledge. Of course, we are not expecting you to have a full, absolutely 100% overview of the market and potential alternatives. But of course, we appreciate any information you have on alternatives that you can give us that will help us assess the situation and come up with different therapies for the patients. So this is what the template will look like. So first of all, we can see that the nationally authorized products, we have now grouped them, and you can see pantoprazole gastro-resistant tablet, amoxicillin powder for oral suspensions, and the centrally authorized product is there with its short name and active substance and pharmaceutical form. So the informational alternatives needs to be submitted only once for each row, for each group. So for the pantoprazole, the alternative therapies, let's say, are omeprazole and omeprazole magnesium, and for the amoxicillin, the combination of clavulanic acid and amoxicillin. The last one, let's say, has no alternative, so we just tick that box. And that will be much clearer once I show you exactly what this looks like in the actual ESMP. So again, site navigation or the information on the home page, alternative therapies, and this is what the page will look like, which will ask you to input that information. So to add the alternative substances and alternative compositions, you go in this field, and again, all the valid compositions of products authorized in the EEA should be appearing here, and then you can choose from them. So again, a pretty straightforward process, and also the information needs to be submitted only once, unless there's a change in alternatives or there are new alternatives that are authorized, which you might be aware of. So here in the last one, we just tick a box that there's no available alternatives. So we submit the form, and we get a message saying that the form was submitted. And that is it. So I can tell you that we have now passed through all the data flows for the submission of data of the ESMP. And once all of this data is submitted, then you have completed your reporting requirements. Of course, availability and manufacturing information will need to be submitted at a particular frequency if the MSSG decides so. But of course, the benefits of accurate data entry, I won't go through all of them. Also, Monica referred to them before, but please review the information, make sure that everything is correctly completed, and check the data fields before the submission. In terms of internal coordination, use the version control files to prevent multiple or outdated submissions. Again, once you download the file, you will have all the previously reported information, the latest version of it there. So make sure if you're working with multiple colleagues that you're always using the latest version of that data so you're not overwriting it. And of course, update it as per the MSSG defined frequency. In terms of the validation results, please check the submission history to confirm the uploads were successful and look at any errors if you have them. And you can also download the validation results, actually, which is also one extra feature. So when you see the error messages, you can also download that table with the error messages to easily correct the fields that carry that invalid data, and then you can correct them. Real quick, we're going to give you some tips and tricks. So please upload one file at a time only. When inserting dates, use the DDMMYYYY format. And also you can put an apostrophe before the date to avoid Excel formatting issues. For the RMS identifiers, you can also format the data to the text, so you can see exactly the full listing of the RMS ID, and it doesn't change to the scientific notation that we've seen happens. Also, do not modify the order of columns or add new columns in the template, and only the first worksheet will be processed, so please don't create additional worksheets. When entering multiple values in one field, please separate them with semicolons, and you'll also see in the implementation guide where exactly multiple values are allowed and where they are not. Only products with a marking status marked as temporarily unavailable will be included in the templates for submitting availability. So we said it already multiple times, and but just pointing it out here again. And do not change the pre-populated product information, as changes in the ESMP will not be transferred to their source systems, which are SPORE and IRIS. So information, substances, products, organizations, referentials, you cannot change in the ESMP, and the same for IRIS. In general, please also ensure that the data on the packages and manufacturer information in PMS has been completed. So please consult the PMS portal, PLM portal, and the PMS guidance. And we will be leaving the link here. And I will also publish the presentation. And there has been a deadline extension to insert pack sizes until end of May. So please refer to the PMS resources for more info on that. Also, there has been a requirement to insert the industry single points of contact, and it has been a legal obligation since I think last year. So make sure that your ICE-POCs are entered, and they need to be entered for all centrally and nationally authorized products authorized in the EU and EEA. So make sure that that information is there, because we use that as a two-way communication channel with you, the industry. So if there is an urgent situation, we have someone to contact within the company. And of course, the ESMP is based and built for crisis prevention and a crisis mitigation. So these are situations where we need to get a hold of you very, very quickly. So please make sure that that information is inserted. For any questions and issues, we have a dedicated portal in ServiceNow, so you can report an issue, request more information. You will see that there's different service offerings, so depending on what exactly you're referring to, you will have that dedicated channel. And also, so of course, EMA Service Desk, EMA Account Management Portal, you have for any access account and registration requests, and the Ask EMA channel for general questions. In terms of useful links, you have the ESMP webpage, which is, I think, your primary source always, as there you will have links to the user guide, so you'll have step-by-step guidance, implementation guide, so technical specifications, but in essence, it tells you how to populate the data fields to ensure that the validations were correct and successful, and you can upload the data. So it's less technical, more useful really, to make sure the data is populating correctly. So you have visual guides, and also, as you can see, we're also having trainings, and please refer to the training that we did for ESMP Essentials and ESMP Routine Shortage Reporting for more information. And again, we keep the ESMP webpage constantly updated, so use that as your primary source of information. And I can't believe I got to the end, finally. I hope I didn't lose anyone and no one is asleep, but I'll pass it back to Pedro so we get into the interoperability topic.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Indeed, it was a very long but also enrichment information and insights. It's quite important that all of you are aware. Before I give the floor to Pedro and Christophe P. I would like just to highlight that you have been instrumental in the development of this system. Just give you a few examples. During the design of the solution through our subject matter experts, industry representatives, during the user acceptance testing with additional industry representatives, also the package size enrichment, starting now manufacturing information enrichment, and also your many questions that we have received, processed, and also considered in the development of the system. So this is your system too, and thank you very much. We can now move on to interoperability. I think, Christophe, you take the floor. Pedro Oliveira is with us, but you will step in the questions and answers if required. Christophe P.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Christophe P. So I work in the Information Management Division at the European Medicines Agency, and I've been involved in the development of ESMP from the technical side, and so interoperability has that technical component. So I will present a status update and a few information about interoperability as far as industry is concerned with regards to ESMP. So first of all, ESMP and interoperability. So there is a legal background to it. So here I have just some sections of the regulation that make mention of the word interoperable or interoperability. And so you see that the work that has been done so far in the analysis is underpinned by the legal text. Interoperability, just to give one definition that we have used consistently, is the ability that organizations have to exchange information that both parties can understand and that is supported also all the way by a machine-to-machine exchange of information. So to reduce, wherever possible, manual intervention. And so this is where interoperability kicks in to try and address this exchange of information and reducing human intervention and human workload. So that is that. So we've got the definition, the legal background. It will be only a few slides. Do not worry. We can go to the next. Yeah, so here we've gone through a number of data sets. So you know of the data sets, of course, MAH, so industry on the left-hand side of this table. And then there's been a prioritization exercise going on with your also your stakeholders, saying that, okay, the routine data set is the one to be prioritized, to be supported by a machine-to-machine exchange mechanism. So this is the one on the bottom left corner of that table. You see the number 1 in the left column, and this is what we have. So there'll be information about the products, there'll be information about your shortage, and then some other attributes that support then the submission of information in preparedness or routine phase. So if we can go one step further in the slides, yes, so this is the yellow. It's highlighted. It's some of them, actually, not all of them, but some of the information. Next slide. So this is getting a little bit more technical because there is definitely a technical component into interoperability. So we went through a number of options that we have looked at within EMA, but also with the representative of industry that were involved in interoperability matters. And so we've discarded a number of options. I will not go over them in details. And we have retained, so if we click on the slides, if we have retained these options in green, so whereby there'll be hypertext transfer protocol. It's HTTP. It is what you use with your browser. This is a technical protocol. And then we will also use structured information, as in, for those of you who are familiar, such as XML and or JSON. And in this case, we have retained the use of JSON for a number of reasons. The tabular format is the one that you use already with the Excel. and this was not retained to support the machine-to-machine integration or interoperability between ESMP and your organization. So we go next. Okay, so high level. So again, a few technical words here. So the approach is and the implementation follows a RESTful-like design of the interoperability through a RESTful-like API. We wanted it to be simple and not over-engineered. So we wanted it to be to the point, and so this is what we strived for in defining the API. We use JSON. It's ubiquitous. All the technical teams know what it is and can use it in a very easy fashion. The validation rules that apply when you submit information for routine that you may have seen already or may be familiar with the Excel, the rules that will apply to the information that you submit through JSON, through that API, are the same. So it is not allowing you to do more or less than what you would do in terms of validation with the Excel. So it is just a different route to allow the submission of information, and hopefully a route that reduces the administrative or human intervention in the process of submission of routine data to ESMP. If we go next. So this is a timeline. The timeline goes way back in the past when we engaged with various bodies, various boards, and had a number of workshops also with industry stakeholders, as well as with NCA stakeholders. And then we are here now, February 2025, where we have circulated a number of documents for your consultation. And then we expect feedback by end of next week. I think the description of how to produce the feedback, how to report the feedback was shared with you. Then we will have a training, what we call here API workshop. So where we will present more in details the API. So in that case, we will circulate the agenda. It is likely that some of your technical colleagues will be interested parties in this workshop. So you may think of contacting internal technical teams for this. And then you will have the release to production of the routine data set through the API in the course of early April. And that's that. So just a few words. So it's important that for you to use the API is not a must. You can continue to use the Excel spreadsheet, and you can decide to onboard for the use of the API at your own pace this year or at any other point in time, or never, if you do not plan to invest in interoperability from an API perspective. And I think I covered really the status update and the information related to interoperability. So I give back the floor to Pedro now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Christophe P. And I think with that, I think the conclusion is that you will have two ways of submitting data to the ESMP. Either use the user interface, or you use machine-to-machine interface. This machine-to-machine will come with the MVP, with its version of the product, and as Christophe said, will be released very, very soon. For the time being, the only option available is user interface, and that's the way you have to interact. And then you may opt by using the user interface, or you may opt by investing in a machine-to-machine connector with us, as this will be available very soon. With no further delay, I give the floor to Stephanie to take us through not 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes, but to the most critical questions.
Thank you so much, Pedro. Indeed, we're a bit delayed, but no worries. So again, send your questions via Slido. You can upvote them as well. We will answer. We will only be able to answer the most upvoted questions now, as we don't have as much time to answer all the 149 questions that you have submitted so far. So please go through them. If you find them interesting, upvote them, and that will make sure that we may address them in this Q&A session. However, we will go through all of the questions and also update the FAQ document on the ESMP webpage within a few weeks' time to answer all those questions, to have you prepared for crisis and MSSG-led preparedness actions, of course. So, starting with the questions on Slido. We have the first one, and the first one is, if the ISPOC belongs to the MAH of CUPS, can the ISPOC request user access to people in the affiliates in other countries? In other words, can the ISPOC request user access to people belonging to other legal entities that are part of the same group? First, I give the floor to Sophia, and then I may add to that.
Thank you. Extremely good question. So first of all, let me preface that by saying that we go really in depth into the user access in the webinar that we held in November for routine shortage reporting. So please refer to that. João Costa there goes through the step-by-step process to request user access, to request admin access. So that is all explained there in depth. And then please take into considerations the changes to that process that Pietro was talking about before. So I think it's important to point out that there's a difference between the ISPOC and the users of the ESMP. There is technically, but there doesn't need to be. So it's completely up to you whether you want the ISPOC to be the same person that uses the ESMP or not. So I see that it's about requesting user access. So I'll just address that really quickly. So of course, the user access can be given to affiliates in other countries. So you can have multiple users using the ESMP. And you get to decide which users have access to which organizations, and for which of these organizations they'll be responsible to submit data for, so that you can also internally coordinate in terms of that. When we're talking about the ISPOC, I'll actually give it over to Stephanie, but I'll also correct myself. I said that the requirement to submit ISPOC data has been there since last year. That is wildly incorrect. It seems that time has really passed me by. Last year was not it happened in 2022, and that was really not last year. So the requirement has been there since September 2022. So make sure that you go and input your ISPOC data. Stephanie, I'll pass it over to you.
Indeed, thank you so much. I would like to highlight again that the ISPOC is our contact that we will contact when a crisis or a preparedness action is declared, and we will reach out to you. So it is important that you keep the ISPOC updated. The ISPOC can be held at the headquarters level of all of the organization of a company. So the ISPOC can be representing multiple affiliates. You can submit the ISPOC for multiple affiliates in IRIS, but the contact that will be the ISPOC must be affiliated with all the relevant organizations in IRIS, so that the submission is successful or available. Okay, I hope this answers the question. We'll move on to the next question. Asking from an MAH perspective, would it be in scope to explain the link between the ESMP and National Competent Authority, NCA? Will a submission on the ESMP automatically mean information is sent to an impacted NCA? And I may give that to Sophia.
Thank you. Another excellent question. So we go also a bit more in depth in the routine shortage reporting, because I feel like indeed this pertains more to routine shortage reporting, but definitely it bears repeating. So the information that you submit to the ESMP relates to centrally authorized products for which you have legal obligations towards the EMA. So this does not impact any national obligation you have towards the NCAs and reporting shortages to NCAs. There is currently no full interoperability between the ESMP and national competent authority systems. That is something that we definitely aim to work towards, but of course that precludes having full and perfect information on PMS, which we can then use Europe-wide to exchange information. So that we know is not there. We need all the information on pack sizes and so on. So all the other PMS prerequisite that we also mentioned there. So please ensure that is done. So that prerequisite is completed so we can work towards European interoperability. But definitely please continue submitting information to the NCAs, and when there is a crisis or MSSG-led preparedness, only then do we request information on nationally authorized products. But again, if in crisis, in crisis also national competent authorities have their own requirements and will have their own processes to manage a crisis. So you will still have the national reporting requirements.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Moving on to the next question. What should be done when NCA updates its website with shortage information, normal situation? For example, IFA publishes it monthly. In this case, the published data concern one of the presentations available. Is MAH required to additionally report via ESMP if shortage data is published on NCA website? Maybe I can take that. So all centrally authorized products, shortages of those need to be reported to EMA, as well as also in line with national reporting requirements. This is very important. So you need to submit the shortage of all cups to EMA and also to the NCA or the national authority if applicable by the national reporting obligations. Moving on to the next question. If a medicine, NAP, was never sold due to commercial reasons, is there obligation to report to the ESMP? I may give that to Sophia.
So first of all, let's say that particular NAP is in the scope of reporting requirements for crisis or MSSG-led preparedness, because otherwise, in normal circumstances, you would not report information on NAPs to the ESMP anyways. So let's say that product is in scope of reporting requirements, there's a crisis active or MSSG-led preparedness, and you need to report for that product. So if the product was really never marketed, then you will be inserting the the marketing status of that product as not marketed, and you will not need to submit information on availability and forecast of supply and so on for that product. We will still be asking you the manufacturing information, so about the global production capacity and so on. And of course, if you're not making any, you can put a 0 there as well.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Should the MAH also report shortages for a product that is in the market via free samples, patient-named programs, etc., but not actual commercialization? Peter Jan, if we have you online, may I ask you to answer this question?
For this question, any product that's on the market via free samples, patient-aid programs, but not actual commercialization, is not something that that can actually be provided through the ESMP, as only products that are marketed and actually commercialized will be used during crisis situations.
And if I may add, also do in normal reporting. Thank you so much, Peter Jan. Then, which kind of reports will be done from the data in the ESMP? Who will get these reports? Very important question, very important information indeed. So, of course, we'll give you some more information on that. Sophia, maybe?
Thank you. I'll start, and then Peter Jan, I'll pass over to you, because Peter Jan is one of our subject matter experts who was working heavily in the matching of supply and demand. So indeed, we're gathering information from the industry, and in this session we're focusing on the industry only, but there is also a portal for national competent authorities. So what we're aiming to do here is to collect information on availability, supply, and demand, and then match that information to see whether there will be enough supply to fulfill all the demands of the patients in all the countries. So we do the analysis of, so we collect the data, we do the analysis of the data, and then we use it for decision making on a European level. So we bring it to the MSSG, the European Commission, and then we make decisions on a European level. Peter Jan, is there anything else you'd like to add here?
Only during, so Sophia says is absolutely correct. So for MSSG-led preparedness and for normal, let's say, shortage reporting, information is only provided to EMA. It's only viewable directly to EMA, but the information might be provided to MSSG or the European Commission. For the during crises, we have NCA-specific portals where they can see the outcomes of the matching of supply and demand that is relevant for their countries directly to them. So there is a national report during crises where they will be able to see the information that is provided through the ESMP.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter.
So, Stephanie, maybe the last question, please.
Okay, yeah, in the interest of time, we'll address the next question. And that may also be the last question. We will make sure to go through all of the questions, of course, and answer them and put them in the FAQ document if they are frequently asked. So the last question is, how is the IT security of the ESMP? Of course, a very important question for all MAHs. There's a lot of confidential information in the templates when reporting during crisis and MSSG.
I would prefer Pedro Oliveira to answer this question. Pedro, can you please step in?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. So just to maybe a note, I will not go into much detail, but the implementation of the ESMP platform is in the same infrastructure we have with IRIS. So the level of security is similar. And as you know, we are using IRIS to manage all our procedures, and we will continue to expand to other procedures in the MI. So we have a high focus on security here. So this will probably not be the most confidential information that we'll hold in this system. So we have this in mind.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe just a super short question I would like to bring up on screen. Can an MAH have more than one ISPOC? Yes, an MAH headquarters of a company can have more than one ISPOC. Each affiliate can have an ISPOC. Okay, so with this, and a backup, of course. Yes, there's always two contact email addresses in the ISPOC, so we have two ways of reaching you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all these questions. As said, we will come back to them in writing in the FAQ document. And I hand back to Pedro.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you all participants and also my colleagues for responding to questions. Let's go to the closing remarks. We have now 3 minutes to close this meeting. Wrap up very quickly. I would summarize this in three points. So one, I think both Sophia and Monica showed well the benefits of crisis and MSSG-led preparedness reporting and how this is important to mitigate any impact on public health. The second point I would like to mention is the walkthrough of the reporting process and the templates used during crisis and also MSSG-led preparedness. So there are plenty of information, but the good news is that the user experience is identical to routine shortages. And finally is you will have two options to submit routine shortages. Either you used user interface or you use API machine to machine that will be made available very soon. This is not the last interaction. We will have additional interactions this month and also in March. both for marketing authorization holders, national competent authorities. So please pay attention to ESMP website. Just Google SMP and you land in the SMP webpage. We have plenty of information there. And finally, just to give you some heads up here, so today is the 29th of February. On the 25th of February, there will be marketing authorization holders Q&A clinic on routine shortage reporting. So again, a recap of what we shared with you in November last year. On the 28th, we will report to the industry standarding group the progress of the SMP. We also report the feedback of this meeting, so it's important that you give us feedback. And finally, as Pedro mentioned, there will be a specific workshop for the implementation and the use of the API or machine-to-machine connection. And finally, as I mentioned before, please, your feedback is very, very important. So please take a few minutes and complete the survey. We will use this survey of the answers, not only to improve the usability of the tool, but also to report to industry associations and other stakeholders like the MSSG, the overall feedback that we've got from this session. And with this, I will close the session, and I would like again to thank you to all participants. We had more than 700 people attending the meeting today, and also all my colleagues for the work behind the scenes and all the time they put in preparing the slides and also the answers. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.